Thank you for attending our session and being timely in your registration to make it here. We're talking about consolidating with Drupal, and it's a clever play on words about how, try new things. You don't have to marry it right away, but start to be experimental with Drupal. And we'll talk through a little bit of who we are and why we care and why maybe you should listen to us. Paint a picture of what we're hearing in terms of our government customers and what things look like under the new administration, what that means for Drupal, both positive and negative, and then kind of how the genesis of Core and Contrib and being part of Drupal can help. We'll talk through an example of a customer doing this in action, of course anonymized because government customer, and then we'll leave it open for questions and discussions before shamelessly plugging Acquia and our community party this afternoon.
So I am Rob Ellis. I'm a solutions engineer with Acquia. As you can see, my beautiful family on the right there, I have 3 daughters, twins who just turned 14. So they're starting high school in about a week. I hear that's a very easy time. I have an 11-year-old. They do horseback riding, cross-country, field hockey, all that stuff. We have 4 dogs, a lot of fish, acquired a chinchilla this year. We're often visited by weird woodland creatures. So this summer we had Gary the groundhog in the backyard. The spring we had Theo the turkey, like a legit butterball turkey, showed up outside our front door and stayed for like 3 days. And that's a lot of the fun that happens around my place.
And then, hello, I'm Zach. Similarly, I have a son in the family that includes, 2 chaotic dogs who are the exact same age because we got a COVID dog and we were like, well, this is fun. We should get another one. I bought a moon bounce before I had children, which I feel like is just a crazy thing to do, but I don't regret it at all, and it's been super fun. I've brought my son to Disney World 3 times. I commissioned 6 fantasy football leagues, and I have a dirt bike in my garage that I don't know how to use. And you're probably wondering, Zach, Rob, why are you telling us all of these things? We're no strangers to chaos is really what we're getting at there, and I think it's fair to say that the government specifically, new administration is a little chaotic right now, so we can relate to that in a lot of different ways. But also, we've personally been working with the government for quite some time. So we both work for Acquia, which is founded by the creator of Drupal, and I help government entities solution with Drupal and find ways that it can impact kind of their mission and their needs in a bunch of different ways. Been doing that with Acquia for about 6 years.
And I've been with Acquia for about 9 years as a solutions engineer, but I've been working with Drupal since probably 2004 with Drupal 4. Been working with the government or tangentially pretty much ever since then. Worked with the company that contracted out of HHS many years ago when the government was just adopting Drupal. Helped put together usability.gov, which I look doesn't exist anymore, and Doge. We've seen a lot of change in the recent months.
I think maybe usability.gov is a good transition to some of that change, right? Because much like dating, the landscape over recent times has changed quite a bit. And while policy change isn't abnormal, I think the abruptness and far-reaching extent of current administration certainly is. And with those policies come the reshuffling of priorities in a really different way. And that results in a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure for people to do more with less, a lot of pressure for existing employees to consider their future, whether or not they should take the split. And really just pulls everybody in different directions rather than kind of puts us in the same boat rowing in the same way.
And you compare kind of the traditional approach or the past approach that we've seen through agencies and organizations of taking a creative approach to kind of address the mission of the organization, being open-minded about what works, whether it's an agile approach, different UX testing, usability approaches, and those agencies kind of leveraging a sense of independence so that they can meet the mission of whoever it is they're kind of called to serve, and then continually improve on that, whether it's through adopting new technologies, implementing new security protocols, releasing new laws on accessibility, just that sort of iterative growth and improvement over time.
And I think kind of part of that that's part of the big change, right? And the new world isn't about improvement, it's about efficiency and consolidation. And it's less about how can we be better and more about how do we keep the lights on. And do that in an automated way where we need less people and we can justify some of the changes in staffing across the government. And again, kind of boiling over into where that pressure comes from.
And this change, while abrupt, still presents opportunities. And especially for a tool like Drupal, it stands out as something very capable that can support kind of everything that everyone's being called to do now, with cost cutting being free and open source. You don't have those kind of onerous licenses that you get from proprietary tools. Open source nature, you have that community, that broader community that you can rely upon, whether it's finding new tools or addressing new problems. The API first and kind of extensibility of Drupal allows you to leverage things like AI, leverage front-end technologies so that the decisions you make now, you aren't locked in to, and it sort of future-proofs you for whatever's going to come next. And that ability to automate content creation, content consolidation, multi-channel delivery really lets Drupal stand apart. And ultimately, regardless of how things shake out with contracts, with agencies kind of shifting priorities, the agency still owns that application and still controls that no matter what comes.
But it's not without its challenges. I think, as most of the people in this room probably know, Drupal talent's expensive for good reason, right? So in a world where you're trying to reduce labor costs, there's an inherent cost associated with the talent needed to implement Drupal or migrate into a Drupal CMS. And with that comes justifying the change. And with any technology, explaining the value to non-technical stakeholders can be challenging, especially when you're justifying a change that they may seem as inherently similar to what they have today. And with that is obviously the aversion to risk. You can use Drupal alone to an extent, but there's always going to be some sort of supporting technology you need, whether it's from an infrastructure perspective or a content creation perspective on top of that. And anytime you're doing something new in this new regime, you're drawing attention to yourself. And that's something we've heard from a lot of customers who are excited to do something new and have initial approvals to do that, but they don't want to raise their hand and be the one to ask for a handful of money right now to pay for that change. And that speaks to the knowledge gap, both in kind of the contracting and, again, those stakeholders who aren't technological making those decisions that inherently impact the teams that are implementing them.
And kind of bridging that gap is important. So when you're kind of pitching the idea of Drupal, they're trying to make those non-technical users understand the value in it. It's sort of like the Disney movie or the kind of young adult rom-com, that friend who was always there, providing that support, helping that person shine, is really the one for them. That's what Drupal is. Drupal is that stable, reliable content management system that lets you put in place intelligent information architecture with relational taxonomy and metadata and all that good stuff so that you can make the most of the content that you have. And then with contributed modules, you can extend that. You can do more. You can connect to tools and services. And anytime someone asks if it's possible, right, there's a module for that. With that ability to integrate artificial intelligence, which everyone is trying to figure out, Drupal lets you experiment with that and kind of go further. And because all of these things, right, this is a very good time to kind of make that long-term commitment to Drupal as your CMS to kind of guide you through these crazy times.
I know what you're thinking, Zach, Rob, that all sounds really great and fantastic, but is anybody else doing this, and what does that look like? And the short answer is yes. We have an office at HHS who's doing a really good job of consolidating Drupal in partnership with Acquia. But for them, it's very much a relationship, right? It wasn't something they just jumped into. They were using and kind of dating Drupal for some time to make sure it was the right system for their teams. But prior to new administration, they started to think about what that long-term relationship looked like and the ways they could be more efficient with it at scale. So they, quote-unquote, moved in together in 2023 and started trying things out and what it looked like to power multiple sites with a single code base and what technologies they could leverage to be more automated in their implementation. And then in early 2024, they kind of made that agency-wide commitment to leverage Drupal, and in their case, Acquia, as that kind of foundational component of their digital experiences, so that when new administration came in 2025, they weren't gobbled up in the consolidation, they were leading it, right? They had put themselves in this position where, we've built this system that works at scale with Drupal that can inherently power multiple sites in a more automated way, and so put them kind of in the driver's seat of the consolidation effort rather than something that gets wrapped up in it.
And granted, they had the kind of benefit of having that longer timeline, but I think it just is a great example of what teams can do now when they're called to do a lot of that consolidation, to kind of do more with less and to kind of figure out things in the new paradigm.
Shameless plug for Acquia. We told you it was coming. We give you the infrastructure underneath Drupal so that you can focus on the high impact deliverables, and we'll focus on all the work associated with keeping the lights on in a more automated way. Community party, everybody come in this afternoon. Well, that was a weak response, but I'll assume we'll see you guys there. No objections. Sounds like it. But really just wanted to hear whether or not the folks in this room are hearing the same things, what you guys are struggling with, and
kind of what's your experience been? This kind of thing.
Yeah, one of our session right now.
Yes.
What our experiences have been for the last
Yes.
4 or 5 months.
We're here for you.
We're in UAT right now. It's going well. On Acquia, but so far so good.
Great. Got anything to say? I'm just kidding. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.